this other stuff keeps getting in the way of that.
Journalists aren't biased. And if they do have biases, our job is to put those aside and report fairly. And if we have any bias, it's a bias towards the facts. It's not because we're rooting for Hillary Clinton or rooting for Donald Trump, whatever. We're rooting for the democracy that we live in. And that democracy, its foundation is a set of shared principles, but also an adherence to truth. Make no mistake, Donald Trump is not the first president or candidate or politician to not like the press. There's long-standing tensions between us and those in power. He's the first one to go so unabashedly and forcefully against us, to campaign against us. He was campaigning against Hillary Clinton, but really he was campaigning against us, which is what he admitted. He didn't care that that was out there. He wanted that to be out there because, as Jake was saying so eloquently, if we report something that is not friendly towards him, if he undercuts our credibility, if he diminishes us, he inoculates himself from that criticism, and he can do whatever he wants. He didn't appeal to the better demons of voters in this country. He appealed to their most base fears and their most base frustrations and angers, and that worked for him, partially because they didn't have a trust in the press any longer, partially because they were sick of Washington, they felt left behind, and he got up there and he said outrageous things, he refused to apologize for it, and he allowed people to feel like they can take control of their lives again. They can do what they want again. They can yell at the top of their lungs if they want, and somebody will finally hear them. Where that goes from here, well, that's a good question for the rest of this panel.
Don't look at me on that one. But I was glad to be reminded of that soundbite where he says, I'm not fighting Clinton, I'm fighting you. I'm battling you. I think we've seen that again even this week in some ways, that the president wants a war with the press, and some of his aides have described it in that way. Of course, the ground was very fertile for this in June of 2015. It's why the first time I saw you on the campaign trail 2 weeks after Trump announced up in New Hampshire, he was already picking on you in the crowd, already calling you out by name and complaining about the press. This was when he was still having small events, before he was having rallies. The ground was fertile for it because of decades of criticism of the press, mostly from the right, sometimes from the left, but largely from the right. So the ground was so fertile for someone to come along and take the subtext and turn it into text, to say bluntly what others were saying softly. This idea of campaign against the press, we could see the groundwork for decades in the past, and for a confluence of reasons, it was Trump who took it to such a different level.
But Jorge Ramos, enemies of the people is not you're biased, you're liberal. It's something that cuts deeper.
Yeah, well, he was criticizing us because we were criticizing him. I think the first responsibility that we have as journalists is to reflect reality as it is, not as we wish it would be. I understand that. But then there's a second level. I think the most important social responsibility that we have is to challenge and to question those who are in power. So if we have a president who lies, if we have a president who made racist, sexist, and xenophobic remarks, if we have a president who criticizes judges and the press, if we have a president who behaved like a bully during the campaign, then we cannot remain neutral. I think on certain occasions we have to take a stand. And it is my position that when it comes to racism, discrimination, corruption, public lies, dictatorships, and the violation of human rights, we have to take a stand. Walter Cronkite did it. I know that many people believe that he was completely right in the middle. Well, he was not. During the Second World War and during the Civil Rights Movement, he took a stand. I have my quotes, I'll show them to you later. But the important thing is that if the president said things that are not, look, if we remain neutral with Trump, I think, we are normalizing his behavior. And he's not an example, not even for school children. And I think it is our responsibility to be critical of him. That's it. That's why we are journalists. That's the role of journalism, I think.